Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. You know how everyone's been buzzing about Deno 2.0? Well, we're going to take a deep dive into all that today. It goes deep into all the big changes in Deno 2.0, like how it now works with Node.js and NPM. So get ready, because we're about to find out if Deno 2.0 is the future of JavaScript.
This video is a bit of a beast, but it really does do a great job of showing us how much potential Deno has. It could really change the game for us JavaScript devs.
Okay, so get this. Ryan Dahl, the guy who created Node.js, he goes and decides to basically reinvent Node.js.
Yeah. Oh.
He calls it Deno, like literally just Node, but rearranged. It's like a cosmic JavaScript joke or something.
Yeah, the name is pretty clever. It's almost like he's saying, hey, I'm going to take Node.js and fix all the problems.
Exactly. And you know how when Deno first came out, some devs weren't too happy because it didn't work with all the Node.js and NPM stuff they were already using.
Yeah.
Well, Deno 2.0 is like a peace treaty. It finally works with Node.js and NPM.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge deal. It really addresses one of the biggest problems devs had. Think about it. You've spent years building projects and using frameworks that are all about Node.js. And now with Deno 2.0, you can use all of that without starting from scratch.
That's right. Okay, so let's talk about modules. This is where it gets kind of interesting. So in JavaScript land, there are two main ways to organize your code. CommonJS, which is the old way, and ES modules, which is the newer standard. Now, Deno has always been a fan of these ES modules, but with 2.0, it can now work with CommonJS too.
Oh, yeah, and that's why we have this whole alphabet soup of file extensions now, js.cjs.mjs. It's all because of this evolution of module systems.
It's enough to make your head spin. But the good news is Deno 2.0 makes things easier by just working with both. And get this, while it embraces NPM for packages, it also introduces its own package registry called JSR.
Oh, yeah. JSR is really interesting. It's built with a different kind of philosophy. Imagine if you didn't have to have that massive node modules folder. You know, the one that's full of tons of external packages? Well, that's the goal of JSR. Native TypeScript support, less reliance on external stuff, and a cleaner development experience all around.
Yeah, so if you're listening and you like the idea of a streamlined project with fewer dependencies, then you should keep an eye on JSR. And speaking of streamlining things, Deno 2.0 takes it even further by giving you all the tools you need right out of the box.
Yeah, it's like Deno comes with its own toolkit, so you don't need separate things like ESLint for linting or Prettier for formatting. Deno even has some testing frameworks built in.
It's like they're saying, we've got everything you need right here.
Yeah, exactly.
But this approach has actually started some debate, especially when it comes to things like how much you can configure the formatter. Some devs love to have control over every little detail, while others love the consistency you get from using a standard set of tools.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think? Does this integrated approach work for you?
Honestly, I think there are good things about both approaches. Sometimes you do need that fine-grained control, but sometimes having one unified approach can really help with collaboration and keeping your code clean. It all comes down to finding the right balance for your project and team.
I see your point. Okay, so we've talked about compatibility and modules and integrated tools. But Deno 2.0 didn't just add stuff, it also removed some things. One big change is that they got rid of the buffer API. Now, buffer was something that came over from Node.js, and honestly, it caused a lot of headaches.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
It was known for being kind of quirky, especially with how it handled copies of data.
Yeah, the primetime actually shows this in the video. With a simple code example, it shows how if you slice a buffer, it can actually change the original data without you realizing it. That's the kind of stuff Deno 2.0 is trying to eliminate.
I feel that. It's all about making coding safer and less prone to errors. And this focus on security goes even deeper into Deno 2.0, especially with the changes to the permission system.
Oh yeah, the permission system in Deno is all about controlling what your code can and can't do. And with Deno 2.0, it's even better. The error messages are way clearer, so you actually know what's going on if something goes wrong.
And speaking of security, they made this really interesting choice to remove the allow time flag. It seems small, but it's a big deal when it comes to protecting against Spectre vulnerabilities.
Spectre vulnerabilities?
Yeah, these things are tricky. They basically exploit how computers handle time. It likes to have a stopwatch that can be manipulated to leak sensitive information. It's kind of like that.
Oh, wow, that's scary.
Yeah, so by getting rid of that flag, Deno's making it harder for bad code to exploit these timing vulnerabilities. It's part of their whole proactive approach to security. I gotta say, I'm impressed.
Me too. They're not just fixing problems, they're actually thinking about security from the very beginning.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. Compatibility, modules, tooling, the buffer drama, and enhance security. But wait, there's more. Deno 2.0 also has some exciting new features. First up, they brought back Node's process global variable. Yeah, it's like a nod to compatibility. But it's interesting how they're handling it. They're encouraging devs to use explicit imports instead of relying on this global variable. It's like they're balancing things out.
I see.
Making it work with Node.js, but also pushing for better coding practices.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, hey, we're giving you the tools to work with your old Node.js code, but we also want you to write cleaner, more maintainable code in the future.
You got it. And speaking of cleaner code, one of the coolest new features is something called doc test. They borrowed it from the Rust programming language.
I've heard of that.
It's all about keeping your code and your documentation in sync. So you can write code examples directly in your comments and then actually run them to make sure they work.
Oh, wow. That's smart.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It helps prevent your code from becoming outdated.
Yeah.
And make sure documentation is accurate.
It's like built-in quality control for your documentation.
I know, right? I love it. And there's one more new feature we have to talk about. This one is a game changer. Deno 2.0 now integrates with Jupyter kernels.
Whoa, hold on. Jupyter notebooks with JavaScript.
You heard that right.
That's a whole new world.
If you don't know Jupyter notebooks, they're super popular with data scientists. For interactive computing and exploring data, think of it like a digital notebook where you can combine code, text, visualizations, all that good stuff.
Wow. I see.
And now with Deno 2.0, you can do all of that using JavaScript.
So that means
it's a huge step towards bringing the power of JavaScript to a whole new audience.
So basically, Deno's saying to JavaScript developers, hey, you're not limited to the web anymore. You can explore data, build machine learning models, do all sorts of amazing things with Jupyter notebooks.
Exactly. It's a huge opportunity for JavaScript devs to use their skills in new and exciting ways.
Yeah, it really shows Deno's vision of pushing the boundaries of JavaScript. It's not just for the front end anymore.
Okay, so before we go any further, I want to hear from you listening. What are your first impressions of Deno 2.0? Does this compatibility with Node.js make it more appealing? Are you intrigued by JSR or the doc test feature? What stands out to you the most?
Yeah, it is a lot to take in, but the big thing to remember is this. Deno 2.0 is a major leap forward, and it really makes us wonder what the future holds for JavaScript development. We'll be digging into all of that in the next part of our deep dive. It's definitely a lot to process. I mean, Deno is really pushing the boundaries here. It's making us rethink what we thought we knew about JavaScript. But like with any new tech, we got to look at the potential downsides too, right?
Yeah, for sure. We got to look at both sides of the coin. So for those of you who are starting to get excited about Deno, what are some things to keep in mind before jumping in?
Well, even though Deno 2.0 says it's compatible with Node.js, moving your project over might not be super smooth sailing. You know, there might be some little differences in how things work, or some weird edge cases that need some tweaking in your code.
So it's not just a copy and paste kind of thing.
Right. It's not that easy, unfortunately. And while that whole minimalist thing with JSR sounds awesome, you know, less dependencies and all that, the reality is that JSR is still pretty new. It might take a while for it to catch up to NPM in terms of how many packages are available.
So for those early adopters out there, you might need to be a bit more patient and maybe even contribute to the JSR ecosystem if you can't find what you need.
Yeah, exactly. Early adoption always comes with a bit of pioneering work. And then there's the tooling situation. We talked about how Deno has everything built in, but that might not be everyone's cup of tea. Some devs really like having the freedom to choose their own linting, formatting, and testing tools.
It's like that age-old question. Do you want someone to curate your experience for you? Or do you want to build your own custom setup?
Exactly. And that whole debate about the formatter configurability, that's a perfect example of that tension.
So it sounds like Deno 2.0 is a big step forward, but it comes with some trade-offs.
Yeah.
What are some key takeaways we should be thinking about?
Well, for me, the biggest one is that Deno 2.0 finally tackles that compatibility issue with Node.js and NPM. So if you've been hesitant to try Deno because of that, like worrying about moving your projects over or having to rely on the NPM ecosystem, well, those concerns are basically gone now.
Yeah, that's a big deal. It opens up Deno to a lot more people.
Absolutely. And beyond just compatibility, Deno 2.0 is really focused on security, simplicity, and making TypeScript integration seamless. Think about it. You've got that improved permission system. They got rid of potentially risky APIs like buffer and those high-resolution timers, and you have all those built-in tools. It all points to a smoother and more secure development experience.
It really feels like Deno's making a statement about the future of JavaScript backends. Developer-friendly, security-focused, and built for the modern web.
And don't forget about JSR. It could change how we deal with dependencies in JavaScript, that vision of a TypeScript-first world, with less reliance on huge dependency trees. It's really compelling.
It's like Deno is asking devs to rethink what's possible with JavaScript on the back end, to leave behind some of the old baggage, and embrace a more modern type-safe approach.
Yeah, you got it. But it's important to remember, like with any technology, there's no one perfect solution for everything. Deno 2.0 makes some bold moves, and those moves might not work for everyone's preferences or project needs.
Right. It's all about weighing the pros and cons and making the best decision for your specific situation.
Exactly. And ultimately, the best way to really understand Deno 2.0 is to just dive in and try it out yourself.
I'm all about that hands-on experience. But before we wrap up, and encourage everyone to go on their own Deno adventures, there's one more super fascinating aspect of Deno 2.0 that we need to talk about. That's the integration with Jupyter Notebooks. This feature could open up some incredible possibilities, especially for data scientists and devs who love working with interactive stuff.
It's a really exciting development. Imagine using the power of Deno within that interactive Jupyter Notebook environment.
It's a combination that could lead to some amazing workflows. And we're going to explore that right after this. Okay, so we've talked about all the cool security stuff in Deno 2.0 and how it streamlines the whole tooling situation. We even talked about that interesting decision to make it work with Node.js. But for me, the most exciting part is definitely the whole Jupyter Notebook integration. It's not something you usually see with JavaScript, you know?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's like Deno is blurring the lines between web dev and things like data science, where Jupyter Notebooks are used all the time.
Exactly. So imagine you're a JavaScript dev working on some machine learning project. You love how flexible and expressive JavaScript is, but you also want that interactive environment that Jupyter Notebooks give you. Well, with Deno 2.0, you don't have to choose.
Right.
You get the best of both worlds.
Exactly. You get all the great things about Deno, the security, TypeScript support, the streamlined tools, all within that familiar Jupyter Notebook setup.
It's like Deno is giving JavaScript developers a whole new set of superpowers.
Yeah, you can experiment with data, visualize your results, even build interactive prototypes, all using JavaScript.
It's like Deno's saying, hey, JavaScript, you're not just for building websites anymore. You can do data science, machine learning, all sorts of amazing things.
It's really powerful. It challenges how we usually think about JavaScript. It's not just a front-end language anymore. It can be used for so much more.
So let's zoom out for a sec and think about the bigger picture. We've seen how Deno 2.0 is pushing the boundaries of JavaScript on the back end, with its focus on security, simplicity, and all that good stuff. But this Jupyter Notebook thing hints at something even bigger. Maybe JavaScript's role is expanding beyond the web.
Yeah, it's an exciting thought. If Deno's vision takes off, we might see JavaScript become the go-to language for data science, machine learning, all these areas that are usually dominated by languages like Python.
Whoa, that would be huge, like a total shift in the programming world. It feels like we're watching a new chapter unfold in the story of JavaScript.
I know, right? It's pretty amazing to be a part of it.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, I have to ask, what are your thoughts on all of this? Are you excited about what Deno 2.0 can do? Do you think it has what it takes to really change the JavaScript world?
Well, we've covered a lot today. Compatibility, security, tooling, even that mind-blowing Jupyter Notebook integration. Deno is fixing old problems, making its own path, and even going into uncharted territory. It's a journey that raises more questions than it answers. But that's what makes it so exciting. The future of JavaScript is still being written, and Deno is definitely a force to be reckoned with.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And remember, our deep dive doesn't end here. We've got links to all the source material down in the episode description so you can explore further, come to your own conclusions, and maybe even give Deno 2.0 a try yourself. Thanks for joining us on this adventure, and until next time, keep diving deep.